Thailand has said it agrees in principle with a Malaysian proposal for a ceasefire between Thai and Cambodian forces and will consider the offer. Tens of thousands of people have fled their homes on the Thai-Cambodian border after intense fighting between the neighbouring countries. 16 people have so far been killed in the clashes that erupted on Thursday over a long-running border dispute.
A long-running border dispute flares into violence again. Thai artillery fires into Cambodia, while civilians flee the sound of gunfire. Simmering tensions between the two neighbours erupted on Thursday, a day after 5 Thai soldiers were wounded by a landmine. The conflict escalated quickly, with ground troops, artillery and aircraft engaging on both sides. Tens of thousands of civilians have fled, and diplomatic relations have been frozen. Each side blames the other for firing the first shot. Thailand and Cambodia share an 800-kilometre border, parts of which have been disputed for more than a century. The fighting has concentrated in 6 regions, including around several ancient temples close to the border. The most significant of these is the 1,000-year-old Phra Vihar temple. In 1962, a UN court awarded control of the temple area to Cambodia, but armed clashes in 2011 saw the matter return to tribunal. 2 years later, the court reaffirmed the original decision, but bilateral tensions have never truly eased. With fighting again engulfing the border, Cambodia has once more asked the International Court to resolve the dispute. Thailand, for its part, rejects the court's jurisdiction. While diplomatic efforts are ongoing, nationalist rhetoric from both sides is fanning the flames. Thailand's acting Prime Minister has warned the fighting could spiral into a full-scale war. For the civilians caught in the crossfire, the only option is to flee, and hope that a ceasefire can end the fighting as quickly as possible.
Now, for a deeper dive into this, I'm now joined by Paul Quaglia. He's a retired CIA officer and the CEO of political risk and crisis management consulting firm PQA Associates, and he's based in Bangkok and joins us from there. Paul, this border dispute has been simmering for decades. Why has it flared up so violently now?
Well, it's flared up violently now because troops have been deployed along the border on each side of the border since May 28th. And so, consequently, with that many troops around the border, even innocent and unintended acts of patrol or stringing of barbed wire can cause the other side, in sort of a hair-trigger environment, to launch an attack. And I think that's what happened here. I don't think that either side fired the first shot, so to speak. I think that it was some inadvertent interpretation by one side of a benign action by the other, and that touched it off. And so what we've seen since then is about 36 hours now of sporadic violence, launches of attacks, air attacks, rocket attacks in Cambodia. But I don't think this is going to get out of hand, and I certainly don't think this is going to end up as a war, so to speak.
If I understand you correctly there, you say that this outbreak of violence was triggered accidentally, more or less. Shouldn't it then be quite easy to resolve it?
I'm not saying I know how it was triggered, but I am saying that the border situation was quite unstable. And so it was prone to a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation of a lot of equipment and troops strung out over several kilometers and 12 different border crossings that could have caused someone to overreact. I think that's what, in fact, when this originally began, a Cambodian soldier was killed by a Thai soldier, but that encounter didn't look like it had been an intended killing. I think it was an accident that touched this whole thing off.
Now, you've been on the ground in Bangkok for years. How do you assess the Thai's military's readiness and willingness to engage in a prolonged military conflict, also given the current political environment there?
The Thai military is ready to be in a sustained conflict. In fact, there's an asymmetric alignment. The Thai military is better equipped, better trained, and has modern weapons. The Cambodian side is not lacking in it, but their aircraft are far fewer in number. They don't have the same level of technology that the Thais do. So I think the Thais in a prolonged conflict would be victorious. But But let me quickly add, neither side, in my view, wants to have this conflict prolonged. I expect that in the next couple of days, we'll see a slow decreasing of attacks, and eventually they'll be brought to the negotiating table, probably with ASEAN and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim getting them together.
Now, if that does not happen, we've seen more than 100,000 civilians displaced in just 48 hours. How could a conflict impact regional stability in Southeast Asia?
Well, this conflict has turned violent many times in the past, 2011, 2013. I don't think it's going to affect regional stability in any way. And I would be cautious about the 100,000 persons displaced figure. We do have the fog of war here, and numbers tend to be a bit exaggerated. And so I don't think we're looking at regional instability. Now, and while we're on that subject, I might add that Thailand is a treaty signatory with the U.S., and China has certainly offered a lot of support to the Cambodians. And I don't think the U.S. and China have any chance of being dragged into this conflict on that level as well.
Now, what leverage do you think the UN, for example, would realistically have in this conflict, and should the UN step in here?
I think the UN will step in. I don't think they'll have much leverage. The solution to this will only come when the Cambodians and the Thais sit down together. We are not talking about a conflict where either side is trying to put boots on the ground and take territory for their own. The issues at hand are boundary disputes over a lengthy, porous, and historically complicated border between the two countries. There isn't a lot of land in dispute. The problem now is it's been turbocharged by a lot of nationalism on each side, driven largely by domestic political drivers, certainly on the Thai side.
Paul Quaglia there, joining us from Bangkok. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us.
Most welcome, Gerhard.
And we can now cross over to Phil Robertson. He's the Deputy Director of the Asia Division at Human Rights Watch in Bangkok. Phil, these border tensions have been simmering for years, as we've heard. What exactly is behind this dispute?
Well, as you mentioned, there is a 60-year conflict on parts of the border that have not been demarcated. But what we also see is firefights, landmine layings, and disputes not just between the armies, but also between the leadership of the two countries, where you have Hun Sen having released a taped recording of his discussion with then Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra. You know, she's now been suspended, and there's basically been a major break between the Shinawatra clan and Hun Sen and his family. And they used to be as close as two peas in a pod. Now they are insulting each other on social media and really driving forward a narrative that there has to be fighting and that, you know, they have to teach the Cambodians a lesson. That's what Thaksin Shinawatra said actually today, that he wasn't ready for any sort of discussion about peace because, you know, it was time for the Thai army to step in.
Now, does that explain that this conflict boils over now at this time?
It has been building for quite some time. And with the rupture between the Shinawatra family and Hun Sen and his family, the last guardrails against something getting worse were then gone. You know, it was a relationship between those two families that it sort of held the relations together quite closely. There's been a lot of disputes about closing and opening the border. Now, criminal enterprises, the cybercrime centers in Cambodia, grievances about different maps, you know, hostile patrolling and firefights. You know, this is something that is now really reached an apex, and I don't think that it's going to end anytime soon. I think that they're going to fight it out, that there's no political will to step back, at least at this point. And this is, again, a tragedy for the civilians on both sides of the border whose lives and livelihoods are being disrupted, in some cases destroyed.
So are you saying that you have little faith that cooler heads can prevail and that this will develop into a serious and sustained conflict?
Well, I don't know how big it will become, but I think they're going to fight it out for a period of time. before both sides get tired and before the international community finally persuades cooler heads to prevail. I mean, we saw sporadic fighting between 2008 and 2011 between these two sides in these same kind of areas. So the potential for conflict is always there. We hope that there will be some way to mediate it, but right now neither side is really interested in being seen as stepping back or conceding any ground. Both want to be seen as tough by their publics and want to continue to prosecute this war, at least for a period going forward.
Now, we've heard that more than 100,000 people have fled so far. Give us a sense of the humanitarian challenge.
Well, certainly when you're taking the latest figure is 130,000 from the Thai government that they have evacuated that people. We're getting very little information from the Cambodian side, but I have to believe that there's also similar evacuations taking place on that side. I mean, you're talking about governments having to feed, clothe, and take care of people for that period of time. And then, of course, there will be the damage that's caused and, of course, the loss of life. We've seen, over 15 civilians killed in Thailand. There's probably a similar number in Cambodia, although they're not really releasing the figures. So this is an ongoing tragedy. And as I mentioned, the people who are really bearing the brunt are the civilians. These two armies are going to fight it out for a period of time, shelling across the border and what have you. But it's the civilians who are bearing the brunt of it.
Phil Robertson, there, Deputy Director, Asia Division, Human Rights Watch in Bangkok. Thank you very much.
Thank you.